Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday, or whatever day it is you're listening to this. So today I've got a new book by James Fenton called Assholes. This little story is called Peter the Great. There must be a lot of pressure on kings and queens to not fuck things up. Don't get me wrong, this is more than made up for the diamond hats and all the swans you can own, but it must grate on you to know that, should you screw things up in some way, you could be forever stuck with a crap suffix, like Ethelred the Unready, or Henry the Impotent, or simply be forever known as the Bastard. Keep your head down too much, though, and you get listed for something shit. There are genuinely 5 kings in Europe who got stuck with the suffix the Bearded, as if that was their defining characteristic. All that work trying not to be as memorable or douchey as Peter the Cruel, and in the end everyone sees you as some sort of fucking beer stag. Peter the Great of Russia was one of the lucky ones because, in truth, he probably should have been named Peter the... Look, some of the stuff he did was okay, but there's the old head-pickling thing, which we probably need to discuss. Peter was born in 1672 and ascended to the Russian throne just 10 years later. He jointly ruled with his older brother until 1696, sharing the whole of Russia like a deck of Pokemon cards. Coming to the throne at that age could have been a disaster, but Peter was actually quite good at it, using a lot of his time to modernise Russia, industrialising it, and bringing in popular reforms such as allowing townspeople to elect their own municipalities rather than be ruled by military governors. Meanwhile, his personal life was a shit show. He divorced his first wife, Eudoxia Lupukina, at 26 and forced her to join a convent. You think modern-day divorces are bad? Imagine losing the dog and now you're a nun. Complicating things somewhat was their son Alexis, who had taken the trouble to not die like his 2 siblings had, meaning he would have a future claim to the throne. Alexis, who was against many of his father's reforms, was pressured by his father to become a monk in order to give up the claim. But he chose instead to flee for Austria for the protection of Holy Roman Emperor Charles VI in 1716. A few years later he came back to Russia, where he was promptly tortured and sentenced to death, then killed in prison before chop-chop time. Peter's second wife was a bit more of a love story than that. I know it's not difficult to beat a murder of a child and a nunning, but still, with the obvious exception of the ending. Peter met Marta Helena Skowronska between 1702 and 1704 at his best friend's house, where she worked as a servant. She was the daughter of, according to conflicting accounts, a farmer, a gravedigger, an officer, or a handyman. She was a peasant and not someone whom the aristocracy would see as fit to marry an emperor. Despite this, Peter fell in love with her wit, and Marta converted to the Russian Orthodox Church, changing her name to Catherine in order to marry Peter, with whom she went on to have 12 children. This is the point where Disney would have placed the happily ever after placard, skipping out the bit where they both started banging other people, one of whom became a gherkin. Peter had several mistresses in his time, including one Anna Mons. Anna had a brother called Willem, who became close to Catherine, and there were rumours of a relationship between the two. The whole situation was pretty icky, a sort of incest via proxy, but was about to get much worse. Despite more than a little hypocrisy, he was mad at his wife raw-dogging the brother of the woman he was banging, Peter had Willem charged with taking bribes, leading to his public execution, whereupon Peter kept his head and pickled it in a jar of spirits. There are rumours that Peter gave Catherine the head as a sort of memento, or made her keep it by her bed as a warning to other potential lovers who could still maintain an erection while doing it in front of a head in a jar. She kept the jar until her own death, so perhaps the first one is true. What's known is that pickling the head of someone who may have just been Catherine's friend put a strain on the relationship somewhat. They began to eat meals separately and spoke a lot less in the following 3 months until Peter died of a bladder illness and cirrhosis. And somehow he didn't get remembered as Peter the what the fuck are you doing with that massive jar. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers, patrons and members. See you next week. Bye bye.